So, and this is via Hip Hop Wired. I saw this come along my timeline for Facebook. So Louis Farrakhan, the minister, the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan, as well as Alex Jones. Alex Jones is a guy that really,
They sell organs.
There you
go. Appreciate you, Lone. He's real OC with the political commentary. You know what I'm saying? He went viral and pretty much carved his own lane in terms of that commentary for politics. But those were just two names of the people that were actually banned from Facebook.
Yeah, Milo as well.
Yeah.
Was it Milo as well?
And
I don't know who Milo is, so that's why I was going to throw it to
yeah.
Jay Moore, because I'm sleep on. Once you get past Alex Jones and Farrakhan, I'm sleep. I'll be honest. Infowars.
Well,
Okay.
Infowars is Alex Jones.
Is that Alex Jones? Okay.
Milo is another. I want to call him right wing, but he's just kind of all over the place.
Yeah, he's
as far as his ideology, but
So as I understand it, it's the majority of right wing people, and then they just threw Farrakhan in there. Is that fair to say?
Think of far right and far left.
That's the same thing.
Right. So Milo and Alex Jones would, I guess, be considered. Milo's definitely far right.
Okay.
Alex Jones is really kind of all over the place too. Really.
I mean, because I've seen, Professor Griff on
Shout out to Professor Griff
on Infowars speaking to Alex Jones. So I certainly wouldn't consider.
That's
anything.
what I mean.
Yeah,
He's
probably.
But he's very extreme. I guess is a good word.
One of the things that he's most known on a controversial level for is how he basically said that the shootings. What it was not Parkland.
There's so many
place
shootings
in
that we
the
talk
east.
about.
Yeah, it's so bad. There's so many mass shootings that I can't remember.
It's an elementary school.
Yeah, it was right before Christmas, and he said that was
a hoax.
A hoax. And the thing is,
oh yeah,
there are.
What shooting was that?
I can't remember the name, and
I had it. On
It's sad that we've covered so
we
many.
Talked about it
Sandy Hook.
Sandy Hook. Yeah.
Sandy Hook.
Thank you.
To that though, and I'm going to bring this up really quick. That's what he got kind of famous for. But he was on the Joe Rogan podcast recently, and he actually addressed that. And he was saying on there that he actually never. He was posing the question. Right. He wasn't necessarily saying that was true.
Got you. Okay.
So it was interesting watching that. To hear him actually be able to defend himself.
But unfortunately, and I guess this is where they're coming from, but at the same time, I still don't think it's a valid thing to do. There are people who lost their children in Sandy Hook. They've had to move and change their phone numbers because there are people who believe that they are a part of some conspiracy so where the government can come in and take all of our guns.
Yeah.
The piece with Farrakhan, I think, is also very interesting because, when they the thing is with Alex Jones, this is something they did to him, I think, on Twitter more than a year ago. And I have to, and I thought this, but I remember seeing somebody who has a much larger platform than me and who's controversial to some, but speaks truth to power to others, Tariq Nasheed.
Yeah.
He actually said they're going to use this as an excuse to take other people's platforms and say, well, they're speaking in a way that makes a certain segment of the population uncomfortable. So we feel comfortable saying they don't have the right to have a platform.
Right.
And a year later, here it is, they decide that Louis Farrakhan and is not someone that deserves to have a Instagram or Facebook page. Now, one of the things that I don't think that they really took into account was the support that Louis Farrakhan has all over the world from not just black people and not just Muslims. Actually, well, I got to shout this out, because when I see something and it's worth shouting out. We're all familiar with M80.
Yeah.
Who is it's not. I'm not talking telling tales out of school or anything. He's a Jewish American who's involved in hip hop.
Yeah.
He did a very eloquent post about how he went to Savior's Day and sat and listened to Louis Farrakhan and how he felt all of this was wrong, and how can you speak about how the minister encourages hate, because it's like, that's not what I heard when I went to Savior's Day. And like I said, I think they misunderstood his message and who he speaks to and the support that he has. Because if anything, I've seen more videos of Louis Farrakhan on Instagram in the last week or so than I've ever seen.
Right.
Yeah, and the thing I wanted to point out, and I'm coming to you, Jay Diff, is, and as it relates to the minister, I saw a lot of people on my timeline that I've witnessed or acknowledged that, have never really spoken to or even posted anything about Minister Farrakhan. And all of a sudden I see people, talking about his freedom of speech. For some reason, freedom of speech was trending and blah, blah, blah. It was all over my timeline. But I wanted to come to Jay Diff to see what you thought as well. To kind of, thank you, to piggyback off what you were saying, what Jay Moore was saying in terms of just the concept of freedom of speech. Because I made a post where I said, okay, if we're gonna play the freedom of speech angle, if you do say something, I have the right to say that I think that shit is stupid, right? Like, that's freedom of speech. And I see people that are getting mad because, they get emotional and they talk about responses, but you can't have it both ways. Right? So, Jay Moore, not Jay Moore, but Jay Diff, what is your take in terms of the concept of that freedom of speech and them trying to basically just take Minister Farrakhan just out the game in terms of his right to be able to post and say his thoughts?
Well, part of that is because he identifies as Muslim. Keyword being Muslim.
Yep.
Even though he's a black Muslim, being a Muslim in America is a scary thing to people that don't know how it operates. And without knowing what he's actually doing, they think he's spewing hate speech or whatnot, which isn't the case. But as far as freedom of speech goes, freedom of speech is a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Because it can go either which way.
Yes.
Now, everybody has the opportunity to say whatever they want to say, but they never said that doesn't come with repercussions.
Right.
And I think that's what people misinterpret when you speak about freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want to say, but you saying what you want to say may lead to other things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Agreed.
So it's not just I can get out here and say whatever and I'm in the free and clear because I have that freedom of speech.
Yeah,
that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, I can dig that. I agree with that 100%. Shout out to Snoop as well. Snoop was very, very vocal in terms of them as it relates to Minister Farrakhan. Snoop was very, very vocal about
Russell Simmons, my son.
Yeah, Russell Simmons, my son as well.
A lot of different voices who are like, "Hey, you got this." Well, the hard thing is,
shout out to them for that because they didn't have to do that. There you go.
And the thing is, it puts you in the crosshairs of certain people if you speak on behalf of Minister Farrakhan.
Mm-hmm.
Just because he's quote unquote a controversial figure. But even the people who are listening to us now is like, why are they taking up for Farrakhan? And I don't see. I'm not taking up for Farrakhan as much as I am taking up for free speech.
There you go.
I do, because the thing is, okay, the same way, just like we talked about when we talked about Charlottesville a long time ago.
Yeah,
they had the right to, be out there with the tiki torches and whatnot, but they also had to understand that people had the right to counter-protest.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, freedom of speech doesn't mean anything if the only speech that you think is okay are people that you agree with, or people who are saying, hey, you know what's great? Puppies and sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who's going to disagree with that?
So how do you guys feel about the overall, not to call anybody a hypocrite, but how do you feel overall about the ban of certain figures on social media? Such as, aside from, I'll be honest, I don't really know a lot about Farrakhan. I haven't seen a speech on him.
That's cool.
I'm not sure where he comes from.
Yeah.
Outside of seeing what I've seen in the headlines and social media and people popping up,
Right.
But do you feel the same way about Alex Jones and about Milo? Because you mentioned a thing about, M80 and he didn't see hate. The thing is that a lot of people that follow some of these other people also don't see hate as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's where
that's a good point.
That's where I come in to say, like, just because free speech doesn't mean anything if we only have the happy and the fun time speech. It's like, I didn't like when they took Alex Jones's platform off of Twitter. He gets the right to be crazy and say what he wants, because the thing is, next week they'll be like, okay, well, those guys, the new old heads, they made fun of Ham and Milk Boy. Maybe we should let them have a platform.
Shout out to Ham and Milk Boy.
You know, at one point they had taken Willie D off of YouTube.
Yeah.
Because of some. So where does it stop? Because it's not about.
There's no way to really regulate that.
Yeah.
No.
That's the point.
If you start
That's the
taking
point.
people off, there's no way to really regulate it. So,
Exactly, because then it starts with someone we feel is extreme, but then someone will hear, you know, a conversation maybe we had about Donald Trump and say, you know what, I think those guys are extreme as well.
I think Jay Diff I think Jay Diff's point about the repercussions is a great point, because no matter what no matter what you think about it.
Well, that's
you
the
know, your
equalizer.
view.
That's
what I'm saying. Like,
that's
I
the
think
equalizer.
to me, that's the dopest part. Is like, yo, understand that when you do go out here and jump off the deep end on whatever you think or whatever you feel, there will be people that may be opposed to that, and that comes with it. I see people that are more like, you talked about when you were talking about to Jay Moore, you talking about Farrakhan. You weren't that familiar. I'm seeing people on social media that are like, yo, if you're thinking that if you're pro or going out to speak against Farrakhan being marginalized and being taken from Facebook, then you automatically are just supporting Muslims and Farrakhan. No, it's not that.
Let me ask this, because people that aren't familiar with Farrakhan don't realize he actually put together a march, which was called the Million Man March.
Yeah.
20 some odd years ago, they unified the black male all together in Washington, D.C.
Yep.
Which was a nonviolent rally. I personally have not heard him say anything negative towards another race, creed, or color in any of the sermons or anything that I've, you know what I'm saying, heard or anything
I would agree.
like that.
I would agree.
Is that same energy being brought to like a David Duke, who's run for different offices and things like that? Is he still able to use a platform such as Facebook and Instagram in order to get his word across?
Good point.
Well,
That's a fair question.
Is Donald Trump still able to use his
Yeah.
platform? And the thing is, this is the thing. I think Alex Jones should have his platform. I think Milo should have his. I think Donald Trump should have his.
Yeah.
I think Louis Farrakhan should have his. I think I'm not for being selective and saying this person is not. They still have a voice, but saying this person's voice, that's not worthy of Instagram.
Right.
You know, and it's an arbitrary decision made by someone in an ivory tower. You know, I don't understand that. It can be.
Is there a level? Is there a point?
Yeah. Where is it? Okay. Did you?
I mean, that's the question I legitimately have. Is there a point? Like, what is the line? Because right now on Twitter, it's death threats essentially.
Yeah.
That's and the thing is, okay, if they have an established community guideline, and they say this person violated an established community guideline based on the guideline that is Twitter, okay.
Right.
But if it's just someone saying, well, enough people disagree with this guy, we should take him off.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like
there's nothing good about that.
Yeah. Yeah, and as far as I see with
point.
Instagram and this, you know, Facebook, which is the same company essentially,
Absolutely.
Which is what a
That's
lot
why
of
they're
people
both
don't.
shit.
Hey,
Which is why a lot of people
dropped
don't
the jewel
realize,
right there, though,
you
low
know.
key. He dropped the jewel.
Well, that's
right
why
there.
Instagram has been going to shit in the last 6
You have to
months.
realize
He dropped
too.
the jewel right there. Go
You
ahead,
have to
Jay.
realize too that politically, whose hands are in the cookie jar of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or whatnot?
Yeah.
Because obviously they have a say on what's going on
Sure.
these platforms.
Sure.
Without these social media platforms, because I know when we were all in high school, those didn't exist
At all.
Right.
So in order for us to gain the knowledge or even be interested in the things that these particular type of individuals are talking about, we had to actually read books, watch news.
It wasn't instant.
Things like that.
It wasn't instant.
You had
No,
to
it wasn't
go
an
to
instant
C-SPAN, watch. First time I saw Louis Farrakhan, I saw him on Phil Donahue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that I'm very much giving away my age by saying I saw him on Phil Donahue. But yeah, that
So
that interview is still available on YouTube.
So
though.
for all of us
Yeah.
that aren't too familiar, what's he most aligned with in general?
Unfortunately, you know, one of the things they pin on him is his dislike of his supposed, you know, quote unquote dislike of Jewish people. But at the same time, you know, I've seen him hug rabbis and sit down and have, and smile and laugh with rabbis and Christian ministers. And it's also a thing where they say he hates white people, but at the same time, I've seen him, sit down and have dialogue and smile and shake hands with white people. But it's just.
So does Trump.
As
far as that's concerned,
but at the same time,
I see.
that's a valid point. If we're going to play devil's advocate, not
So
the devil needs an
he's
advocate.
he's very good at that.
So does he have the perception in general of something similar to what the Black Panthers had in the sense?
There's a very you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but to me there's a very militant vibe that is associated with Minister Farrakhan by default. Like,
it's
to me,
just the way the Nation of Islam
how
operates.
they move, right? How they move, right?
Yeah, and it's generally even his the fruits of Islam per se.
Yep.
They're not like heavily armed.
Oh no,
things like that.
I'll just to be clear, the fruit of Islam don't carry weapons at all.
They're just power in numbers.
These are the same guys that offer to, I guess, I don't want to say protect, but assist when Nipsey's procession was going. When it got to the point where it was getting close to Crenshaw and Slauson, all you saw was the Muslim brothers outside, right beside his hearse.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were there to offset everybody else because everybody started coming closer and all that. There's no weapons or anything involved with that.
No,
those guys just offered to do that.
Being in their presence before, I know for a fact like they don't carry weapons, but they also. You see them in the suits and the bow ties. They do not play.
So I wasn't even going with the weapons and the Black Panthers. That's not necessarily.
No. I'm just saying that in general, how they operate,
right,
is not something that is highly weaponized.
No, it's a thing because when like I said, this Donahue interview is very well being circulated as of late. The white people in the audience, when they would, ask him questions, they would say, well, I'm just in fear of the violence.
Right.
And if you know about the nation, what can you really tie? And like I'm speaking to our audience and just people who listen, you can't tie, anything that Louis Farrakhan has done to any type of violence.
No,
that's a fact.
There's no record of that, but just in his support of black people, that's seen as violent to, for lack of a better term, the dominant society.
It's a perception, like.
But that's the same idea with Black Panthers, though.
But
really,
with the Black Panthers, the whole thing was they were made to police their own
communities
and whatnot,
right?
And they pretty much operated in the right to bear arms.
Yeah,
and they were moving as a unit, and that was scary.
But I guess what I'm speaking on is the perception from the white people.
Yeah, because
you know what I mean.
Some white people still say that Black Panthers were a hate group, and
They like to liken the Black Panthers to the Ku Klux Klan.
There you go.
But the thing is, it's been a constant conversation. But when you are pro-black in this country, you're automatically perceived as anti-white.
Yeah,
for sure.
But
Black Panthers actually started the WIC program.
Yeah, when you talk about the free breakfast and whatnot. But unfortunately, in this country, if you are anti-black, let's just be honest, there is a history of violence that is attached to anti-blackness.